when you log into Tinkercad, there's the work plane, and this is sort of just like your floor. If you're thinking about you're building your blocks on the ground, this is the space where you're going to build. You're going to start from the bottom and build up off the work plane. And then on the right, you have all these different 3D shapes that you can use to build with. And we're going to use these basic shapes to construct our robot. Now, once you get comfortable in Tinkercad, you can use this drop-down menu. There's even more types of shapes. There's actually circuit shapes. There are dinosaur shapes. They just added a bunch of Smithsonian material. There's a whole Smithsonian collection. They've digitized some of the Smithsonian collection. So once you get the hang of how to use Tinkercad, you can explore some of those more advanced sections. But we're going to work with the basic geometric shapes. One more quick thing in the top left are your camera controls. You can adjust your camera by dragging on this. You can also do it with your mouse, which is what I'll be doing. And you have zoom in and out buttons as well. But if you want to directly go to a specific type of view, you can click on it on that cube. So you'll see that is moving as I'm moving around. To bring a shape into the Tinkercad work plane, you just click and drag. It's very, very simple. And we're going to start by making the feet for the robot. And so I'm going to use the shape that is called, in here it's called a rounded roof. It's basically a half cylinder. So I'm going to bring that on and use that to make the feet. While I'm doing that, I want you all to tell me what color you think his feet should be. I'm just going to drag the shape on and place it wherever I want on the work plane. You can use the grid to kind of help line everything up. So you can see that is going to be his robot foot. And I want two of those. Actually, no, I'm going to do his leg next. So there is his foot. And again, think of what color you want his leg. I'm going to have the leg and foot be the same color. Think of what color you would like those to be. And I'm going to use a box for his leg. So I'm going to drag this box on. Again, I'm just clicking and dragging. And when you get a shape, if you click on it, hopefully you can see that there are boxes on all the corners. They're white boxes. When I mouse over them, it actually gives me the dimension of the box. And there's one on the top. I can click and drag these to manipulate that shape. So like I said, it's like your building blocks, but you can change it. I have a cube, but I want it to be a tall, skinny rectangle because I want it to be the robot's legs. So I can actually bring it in and bring it this way until I get the type of shape that I want for the robot's legs. And then I'm just going to click and drag and move it into place. So a quick note about Tinkercad. Many people use Tinkercad just to model, just to make 3D models of anything that is cool and interesting. There's also a function, if you click on the export, to export it as a 3D printing file. So if you have a 3D printer, if your library has a 3D printer, once libraries are open again, you can actually export your model and have it 3D printed. There's also some ordering information here. You can send it off and have it 3D printed and mailed to you. So if that's something you're interested in doing, you can look into that a little bit further. Just a quick note, if you are designing this to be 3D printed, make sure that your objects are connected really well. They'll print better if there aren't any gaps between the shapes. So now I have a leg, and I don't see any color choices yet, but let me know if you have an idea for the color of the leg. Okay, we need two legs now. So I could do what I just did and rebuild that leg, but once I already have something, it's really easy to just duplicate it, and that way it'll be the exact same size and scale. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the leg, give them $1, and hold down Shift and select the foot so they're both selected. And there's a group button up here. I'm going to click group. It's going to group it. And now it is all one leg and foot shape. And then I'm going to go ahead, there's a duplicate button. I can just click duplicate. And it copies it right on top of the other. So it looks like it didn't do anything, but if I click and drag, now there are 2 feet. Now I can just line them up and position them however far apart I would like them to be, a little bit closer together. And now we have 2 legs for our robot. So the next thing we're going to do is make the body. And for the body, I'm actually going to use the same shape that I used for the foot, this half rounded roof, or the rounded roof, which is like a half cylinder. And I'm just going to bring that on. Now I want it facing the other direction. I want the rounded part to be the front of the robot and the flat part to be the back. So if I zoom in, hopefully you can see that there are rotate arrows that allow me to rotate the shape. So I want to rotate it this way, so I'm going to click on the rotate arrow and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. And it gives you a handy little guide so you can see exactly how far you're rotating it. And then I can use my scale tools to make it the size that I would like it to be for the robot's body. Smaller and maybe a little bit wider. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag it over and put it in the area of the robot. But now hopefully you can tell that it is down on the ground on my work plane, and I actually want it to be up on top of those legs. So on the top of every shape, you'll have a little black cone, and when your mouse goes over it, it turns red. I'm going to click on that, drag it up, and this is how you move something up and down in this space. My students sometimes when they're first learning, that's the thing they have the hardest time with, is remembering and figuring out how to move things up and down. When you click and drag, you can only drag side to side. Up and down, you have to use this black cone, and it will allow you to position it exactly how you want it to be. So now we have a body, and if you have an idea for a color for the body, let me know. We have a whole bunch of colors to choose from. You can see all the colored options right there on the color button. If you've just joined us, say hello or give me a thumbs up. Okay, now we have a body for the robot. Make it a little taller. There we go. Okay, so the next thing he needs is a neck and a head. I'm going to use the cylinder tool for his neck. And I'm going to make it real skinny, like this. And just like we did before, the easiest way to position things is to move it under where you want it to be. That way you know exactly where it is and make sure it's lined up pretty closely, and then use the black cone to pull it straight up. Then I can rotate down and use my arrow keys or my mouse to position it a little bit better. So I click on it, I can use those arrow keys to fine tune where the placement is, but that's pretty good for now. For the head, for a robot, you can choose pretty much wherever you want it to be. Oh, good question. The shapes always start on the plane. Yeah, you'll click and drag the shape in, and yes, it does. You can't drag it up. It's always locked down to that plane. That's a really good question. Yeah, I can't pull it up. It has to be placed on the plane, and then I can drag it up if I want it to be. Yeah, great question. Also, if you drag a shape on, you decide you don't want it, you can just drag it off. You can press the delete key, or there's a delete button up here to get rid of it. So it's very easy to remove something. And there's undo and redo arrows. Tinkercad also autosaves. So if it happened to me earlier, my internet went out, it just closed out Tinkercad. When I came back, it remembered exactly where I was. So it's a simple login, and it saves everything. Right up here is your file name. It generates a kind of a gibberish file name, but you can click to change it. So I'm going to bring a cube on. If I have any teachers watching, give me a heart, because Tinkercad is really awesome for teachers. There's a whole teacher section. There's lots of training and tutorials, but there's also student accounts. So it's really easy to set up a teacher page and manage your students' accounts. You set up a password for them. So I use my students' school IDs, but you can set up your own code for the students to log in. So they don't even have to sign up for an account. You just sign up for a school account, which is free. And then you can see your students' progress. So you can log in and see what they're building. If they're stuck on something, you can actually go in and see their workspace, what they're working on, which is really, really, really cool. So if you're a teacher, I definitely recommend looking into the teacher accounts in Tinkercad. So I am going to use this cube for the head. Scaled it. I'm going to move it over. I'm going to use the black cone to drag it up. And one of the things we're going to be doing in a little bit is we're going to make a name for the robot. And I'm going to show you how to use text. So if you have any ideas for a name for this robot, I would love to hear them. I'm going to take suggestions. So there you see now he has a head. I'm going to do this kind of quickly, but obviously you would play around with the size and the scale of what you'd like for the head. So the next thing I'm going to show you how to do is something pretty cool. This is my favorite feature in Tinkercad, and it's the hole feature. So any shape that you have in Tinkercad can actually be turned into a hole, and you can cut it out of another shape. So I'm going to cut a heart out of his body, sort of like the Tin Man. And to do that, you just drag your shape into Tinkercad, and you'll scale it and move it into place just like you would any other shape. But you want to make it, let's see, I'm going to scale it. And you're going to place it where you want that to be. So this is going to give me a heart-shaped hole. You see, I've made it kind of wider because wherever the shape is where it's going to cut the hole. So I wanted to cut a heart out of my robot, but I wanted to go almost all the way through his body. This is really helpful anytime you have something that you're cutting a shape out of another object, you want to make something hollow. If you're building a house and you want to cut out windows, you'll end up using this feature a lot. So I'm going to click on my heart, and instead of picking a color, I'm going to click the button that says hole. And hopefully you can see now that it kind of looks like a ghost. It's got that kind of semi-transparent. It hasn't cut the hole yet. This is just designating it as a hole. But to actually make the cut, you have to join the two objects or shapes. So I'm going to click on the body. I'm going to use my Shift key, hold it down, and click on the heart. And then up here, the join button, or I'm sorry, it's called group. I'm going to click the group button and watch what happens. Do you see how it just cut that heart, that hole out of the body? Super cool, right? It actually made a heart-shaped hole in him. If I wanted it to go all the way through, I could have just made that heart even longer and it would have cut it straight through his body, but I just wanted it to go most of the way through. All right, so just a few more things to show you. We're going to add eyes now, and arms and hands and his name. So keep thinking of a name for this cute little robot guy. For his eyes, I'm going to combine two different shapes. I'm going to take the tube shape, and I'm also going to use the sphere. And I'm going to put those together to make the eye. Now, a good tip is to make it really big first, and then you can scale it down because it's much easier to work with a shape when it's really big. So I'm going to do the eye right here on my work plane. And so I'm going to make, this is going to be the outer part of the eye. And I might make it green. And then the inner part of the eye, I'm maybe going to make gray. I'm going to flatten this a little bit, and I'm going to move it in. And then once I get the eye the way I like it, I'm going to group it. You can group using the Shift key or by drawing a box around the two objects. And again, clicking the group button. And you'll see that when I grouped it, it now made them both the same color, which is not what I want. I want the inside to be a different color. So if you click on the solid button and check the multicolor box, it will bring them back to the colors you selected, but it'll still be grouped. And now I can get in there and really scale it down to make it the size I want it to be. And then just like we've done before, I move it kind of into place. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees forward. And then I'm going to use the black cone to pull it up. And you see I'm zooming in and out a lot. That's just good to help see everything. I'm using the mouse wheel on the wheel on my mouse to zoom in and out. And then I'm going to place it. And I kind of want big eyes because this is kind of a silly looking robot. Once you get what you like, I can use the duplicate button and then just copy over the other eye and place it so it's identical to the original eye. Okay, I'm going to show you now I'm going to give him arms. And I'll do this pretty quickly because you've seen me scale before, so I think you have the hang of that. But for this case, I want the arm to be rotated, but I don't want it 90 degrees. So I'm going to just rotate it, kind of eyeball it so it's angled a little bit. And maybe like 43 is good. Move it into place, bring it up. And I can give it a color. And then I'm going to duplicate this because I want another arm that's the same size. Now you'll see when I duplicate it, it's facing the same direction, and I want to flip it. So it's really easy to flip things or mirror them in Tinkercad. There is a tool right here that's called Mirror, and when you click on it, it's going to give you arrows, and then you tell it which way you want to mirror it. Are you mirroring it along, up and down, side to side, front to back? I want to mirror it left to right, so I'm clicking this arrow here, and then it mirrors it for me. And I can easily put the arm in place. So we're almost finished with our robot. Still need somebody to suggest a name. So if you have a great idea for a name for the robot, let me know. And I am going to do a hand. And this is going to show you another cool way to use the hole. So I want the hand to be kind of like a little gripper claw. So I'm going to use this torus shape. And I'm going to rotate my workspace so you can see it and make it kind of bigger. So I want kind of a torus like this, but I want half of it. I don't want the whole torus. I want it to be half a torus. So you can use the hole tool to make any shape into a different shape by cutting off what you don't want or need. So I'm going to use a cube and bring it onto my workspace, and I can use the grid. The grid is really helpful in lining things up. And I'm going to cover up the part of the torus that I don't want. And then I'm going to make the box a hole. Just like we did before, I'm going to go ahead and group these two using the Shift button. And when I group it, just like we saw before with the heart, it's going to cut that half of the shape away. And so now I have the shape I want. So if you see a shape in here that you really like the roof, for example, but you just want half of it, you can use that hole strategically to get the shape that you want. So this is another really good tool that you'll use a lot in Tinkercad, because a lot of times you'll have an idea of something and there's a shape that's similar but not exactly to what you want. I'm going to go ahead and rotate this now to get it the right way. I'm going to move it into place. It might be too big, but once you get it up there, you can see if it's what you want it to be. And I'm going to rotate it a little more forward. There we go. Okay. It's probably a little too big, but I'm going to leave it like that just for time's sake. So just like I did with the arm, I can very easily duplicate this and then mirror it so it's facing the right direction, and then move it right into place. The very last thing we're going to do is I'm going to make a little stand for him and put his name on it and show you how to use the text tool. So I'm going to draw a box around the whole robot and click group. You can always ungroup. If you group something and then later realize you didn't want to group it, you can easily ungroup everything. So that's really nice. It does remember everything that you've done. I'm going to go ahead and group it. It just makes it easy now to move him as one whole piece, and I'm not going to leave anything behind. Just make sure you select everything when you group so you're not leaving an eyeball or something behind. And I'm going to use this box tool to make a platform for him to stand on. And then we're going to put his name on it. All right. Well, it looks like Caitlin said that he looks happy, so I'm just going to name him Happy. I think that's a good name for him. So I am going to actually make this a little bit taller. Okay, so for the final piece, there is a text tool in Tinkercad. You can click on it. It's super easy to use. You're going to click wherever you want it to go in the workspace. And right now it just says text, but you can see it opens up a box. Some of the shapes, when you use them, will open up a box with some other settings that you can change. A lot of the more advanced shapes have settings and adjustments you can make. So here I'm going to click in the text box and I'm going to type in whatever I want it to say. So we're going to call him Happy. It is case sensitive, so if you want it all caps, you type it all caps. There are a couple different fonts. There's not a lot of options, but you can select the different fonts. You can adjust the height of the letters. You can adjust the bevel, which is kind of if it has like a little curved angle to them. And then the segments is how it kind of smooths it out. So you can see it make kind of a nice little smooth text. And I'm going to give this, make it white. And then just like with any other shape, I can rotate it. If you wanted each letter to be a different color, you would do each letter separately. You wouldn't do it as one block of text. This is going to keep it all the same color. And then just like I did before with all the other shapes, I can embed that text into it. And then you have his name right in the center of his little stand.